Hello, so today we're going to do Unit 2, Day 3 notes, which is linear versus nonlinear. Let's go ahead and start off with a couple of vocabulary words. The first thing we know already from a previous lesson is what a function is. Basically, a function is a special relationship where an input has a single output. Now, a relation is just a relationship between x and y values. Now, a linear is basically a straight line that does not curve. And of course, if you look at the word linear, you will recognize that the word line is in there. Okay? So that's an easy way to remember what linear is basically a straight line. Now, nonlinear is, of course, not a straight line, and it does curve. Now let's go ahead and move on to the examples. So we'll start off with graphs. The graphs are easy. You have to just determine if they are a straight line. So which graph is non-linear? Non-linear. So which one is not a straight line? Obviously B, because it curves. Okay. 2. Which one is not linear? Well, for these, the best thing you want to do is get yourself a ruler or get yourself a straight edge or anything that has an edge and obviously connect the dots. So this one seems to be the best option. If you notice, obviously this one you can do that. That's not straight. This one, if you connect the dots, there you go. And of course, there's that. Now, it always helps to just connect the dots. And if you notice which one is linear, it will be B. Now, moving on. The speed of a ball dropped from a tall building is represented by the following graph. Which word best describes the graph? Well, of course, this is a straight line, so it's linear. And of course, we've never talked about exponential. We haven't talked about quadratic. And we haven't talked about sine. So the only logical answer up to this point will be letter B. Okay, go ahead and flip to the back. And now for this part, we're going to have to graph each table, see what the graph looks like, and then be able to determine if it's linear or not. So remember, the first number, the x, tells you whether you're going to go left or right. And the second number tells you you're going to go up or down. So let's start with x. -2, -1. There's my first point. Next one, -1, +1. 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4. Okay, so if you follow the pattern, that is definitely not linear, okay? Because it doesn't make a straight line. That definitely curves, okay? Moving on to the next one. First, the -5 tells me to go to the left, 5, and then the 6 tells me to go up, 6. Then the next one is -1, 2. The next one is 0, 1. The next one is 2, -1, and then 4, -3. Now, of course, if you ever need help determining if that's a straight line, take a ruler or anything that has a straight edge and connect your dots. And of course, if you're able to connect them in a straight line, then that means it's linear. Okay, so this table is linear. Now, when we're dealing with an equation, first thing you need to know is that a linear has an exponent of 1. So examples could be y equals x to the first, or you can just see it as x equals, or y equals x. Now, if there's no exponent on the variable, it's implied to be a 1, okay? But it has to have x to the power of 1 somewhere, okay? Now, if you look at example 1, the exponent here is -4, so that's not it. The exponent to this x is 2, so that's not it. The exponent to this x is 3, that's not it. Now, this x doesn't have an exponent, so it's implied to be a 1. So I'm going to put a 1. Now, remember it says a linear has an exponent of 1. That's my answer, so that means this is linear. Okay? Number 2. In which equation is y a non-linear? So not an exponent of 1. So I'm looking for the one that doesn't have an exponent of 1. Well, you start with A. This x doesn't have an exponent, so I'm going to put a 1, and that tells me this is linear. So I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for the one that does not have that exponent of 1, the one that's not linear. The next one, if you notice, the x doesn't have an exponent, so it's implied to be a 1. Once again, that's linear, so that's not my answer. And then, of course, letter C, if you look at the exponent for the x, it's 2. 2 is not an exponent of 1, so that means this is linear. This means this is the non-linear function that we're looking for. Non-linear. Okay? So basically we were looking for the one that did not have an exponent of 1. So obviously that will be letter C. Of course, if you have any further questions on today's lesson on determining whether something's a linear or not, please do not hesitate to ask me tomorrow in class.